People will ask me a lot of technical questions, like what kind of models should they be using or tools.
Mm.
And I tell people I would rather not start there. I'd really want to understand your vision and mission and how AI could support outcomes that would help you scale and reach more people.
Welcome to the Ministry at Scale podcast. I'm your host, Chad Williams. Join us as we discuss trends, learn from experts, and share practical tips about how to help your ministry multiply its digital impact. This podcast is being sponsored by 5Q and our new Launch AI service. Your ministry is already feeling the pressure. Everyone's talking about AI, your team's experimenting with tools, but nothing is connecting to real, measurable impact. Well, Launch AI changes that. It's a dedicated leadership team for your ministry built on human-first, AI-empowered framework. So every decision honors your values, earns your board's trust, and actually moves the mission forward. In just 90 days, Launch AI will establish AI governance, select and configure the right tools for your team, create and test several use cases, and train your staff for immediate productivity gains. Stop experimenting, start multiplying. Find out more at 5q.com/launch. That's fiveq.com/launch. Well, let's dive into today's conversation with my friend Yvonne Carlson. Well, today we have the privilege of talking with a leading voice that's been melding technology and ministry for at least the last decade, even more than that. So today I'm excited to have Yvonne Carlson joining us. Yvonne's involved with many initiatives, including co-director of Missional AI Conference. She's also director at Faith Tech, and her day job is CTO with Global Media Outreach, also known as GMO. Yvonne, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me, Chad.
Well, it's great to have you here. You know, we were just together a couple weeks ago in Nashville at the Digital Ministry Conference, and you gave a great talk there. Really thankful for you being able to join us and share some of the things that you've been doing at GMO.
Thanks for the opportunity. I have to say that my favorite part of the conference was the table talk time where we got
Mm.
together and we just talked about problems that different ministries are trying to solve, especially in the way of AI. And I think I learned a lot at that conversation.
You know, that is always one of the highlights of that conference, and this year was no exception. Just it's always something when you can sit down and interact with your peers around the real problems that they're having, and especially those who are being able to speak from the stage and able to speak into that. I know a lot of people really value that. That's good. Well, first, can you just tell us a little bit about your motivation that brought you to melding technology and ministry, and now as CTO with GMO?
Well, I've always loved technology. Even when I was little, I was in the garage. Anything that I could tinker with, any power tool that I could get my hands on, soldering iron, you name it. So I really have always had that curiosity. And at the same time, I always had a real passion and love for missions.
Mm.
My mother is from the Netherlands. My father is American. So I'm a third culture kid. So it was always apparent to me that Christianity or growing up in a Christian home wasn't something that everyone got to experience. So when I went to college, I actually was planning to be a psychiatrist. That was the path I was headed down. And God redirected me. And I worked in industry and at the end of the day ended up in ministry. All of that experience was because God wanted me to use my love for computers and my love for missions together. And
Mm.
that's what I really love being able to do at GMO, really reach the world with the gospel through the biggest highway we have, the digital
Mm.
one.
I love what you said about your curiosity, because so often that really is what drives a lot of us, right? To be able to say, oh, what is being done, but what could be done? Well, what if? In your love of missions and your background, that's fantastic. So that's good. So, you know, as I survey the landscape of AI, and it seems to me that we're moving from this era where there's inside in organizations, there's pockets of people using AI, And now leadership is starting to see some of the potential, and some organizations are making AI a part of their standard operating procedure. So it's kind of like this: we're moving from pockets to seeing the potential, and now some organizations, not many, but some are seeing it as as a part of just this is how we do things, like using agents, or this is just the way we do things. So could you talk to us about your journey of leading GMO into the world of AI?
Happy to do that. And I think that's a really important question right now because, people will ask me a lot of technical questions like what kind of models should they be using or tools.
Mm,
And I tell people I would rather not start there. I'd really want to understand your vision and mission and how AI could support outcomes that would help you scale and reach more people. So for me, it really starts with strategy. From a strategic perspective, how can AI help you be more effective in ministry, in business, whatever it is? And the leadership there is the discussion around what does that look like? So in our case, we did some exercises as a company to say, what are use cases, specific individual ways that we could use AI anywhere, any department, any role? And that was
mhm.
really helpful to get people to start thinking about what could it look like? What would it look like if I had the option to do this with AI instead of the way I've been doing it for years and years and years? And that really got the wheels turning, and we started a an AI task force as a result. So people from all over the organization, not just in leadership roles, to help shape where we're taking AI as an organization.
So a couple questions on that. That's great. Could you just share what were some of those use cases that you were able to either uncover or develop internally?
Yeah, sure. So it ran the gamut. All the way from because we run ads, data analysis of ad data that you get from different platforms.
Hmm.
It was finance. Are there any is our financial software, is it AI enabled? And it is. What features are now enabled by AI? Could some journal entries be automated? Video creation, creating scripts,
Hmm.
writing an email. My
So what?
favorite,
Yeah,
my
go
favorite
ahead.
is being a thought partner. My
Okay.
favorite is being a thought partner because we're remote. So sometimes we need someone we can talk to. We don't always have a person, but we do
Hmm.
have AI.
So what it sounds like you did is you thought ahead of time, hey, how could AI be used? And then you tested that with a few folks so that you could actually see what the results were, and then you shared that with the rest of the organization as a use case. Is that kind of how, if I'm
Correct.
understanding the
Correct.
the
That's
process?
that's correct. So
Excellent.
I knew AI was coming. When the chat GPT moment happened and
Hmm.
we put a front door on AI and anybody could use it. We started immediately working on a white paper with our position
Mm.
as a ministry on how AI would be utilized in anything we do. And we do use it in the ministry or the program side of the organization. And so I worked with our technology advisory board and the board of directors to say, what should our posture be?
Hmm.
Because the question is not, what can AI do? I mean, we did ask that question, but what should it do and what should it never do?
Hmm.
And I think
Yeah.
that experience helped us get to that point. What should it do? What should it not do? In an honest way, having conversations with people internally. So it wasn't just something that was, delivered to them or told to them. They had to discern it for themselves.
So, I mean, you bring up a really good point. Just because you can do something with technology doesn't necessarily mean we should. And how much more does that apply to AI when you're thinking about ethics and everything else? Like there's a lot to think through. Did that white paper that you wrote, did that end up becoming a policy for the organization, or
Yes.
just
Yes, it
like
did. It was a policy for the organization. So we made some foundational commitments in that white paper to biblical
mm,
alignment. We want
hmm
to align with scripture, obviously. Transparency. If we use AI, we're going to be transparent to our audience, our
hmm
audiences. Human accountability. So there's always a human in the loop in the process where appropriate, that we want
Hmm.
to use AI to enhance people's roles and their work, not replace them, and that trust is first.
Hmm.
So the way you build tools, especially when we're talking about spiritual formation, is paramount. You wouldn't think the way you design an app could impact spiritual formation. It most certainly can. So we want to build trust, and that, of course, transparency goes hand in hand with that. And I could cite Bible verses for all of these things. That's where we really got
Hmm.
our policies from the Word of God.
Those are great foundational principles. It sounds very similar to the ones that we've established here at 5Q. The transparency, human in the loop. Yeah, that's excellent. Talk to us as AI has been starting to use more and more. How has the enhance, not replace, human effort? How is that working itself out at GMO today?
Well, I think the needle is moving. So we're talking more and more about agents.
Hmm.
So delineation, automation is, automating tasks. An agent is really a person automating a person. So it would be like complex workflows. It could
Hmm.
even be a role. So for example, you could say, I want to use an agent to answer all the comments on my Facebook post, right? That an agent could do that, community management. And so where we're wrestling again is where that human is in the loop and
Hmm.
what's honoring to the audience. And again, if we use AI, you would know we'll be very transparent about it. But this requires cross-functional discussion. So,
Hmm.
meaning it can't be just the C-suite. It needs to be leaders at every level thinking through strategically, is an agent appropriate? And obviously, guardrails have to be in place for these agents. So we are testing against that. And there
Hmm.
are different tools that you could use to make sure that I joke around. I like to have a sense of humor about things. It's like agents are like toddlers, right? You have to train them like anybody else. How
Hmm.
do you know the kids are behaving?
Hmm.
Well, people will say to me, well, I gave the agent a list of stuff it needs to do. And I'm like, okay, great. How do you know it did what you asked it to do?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think that's the challenge is that observability and that monitoring and how we're setting up systems. Because ethically, I want to be able to say, I know what's happening. I know what should be happening and I know what shouldn't be happening. Back to my original question, what should it do? What shouldn't it do? You have to tell it both ways. It's the both sides of the equation have to be included.
Yeah. So I'm just curious, like our team is using agents to test the agents to make sure that they're actually producing the correct output. And then we'll still get final eyes on it. But that's the other thing. I don't know if you're seeing this, but like we're projecting that we'll for our small organization, we'll be saving about 3,000 hours of human time in 2026. And what we're seeing is that that's not necessarily a reduction of, oh, well, now what am I going to do with my time? But we're able to, our team is able to bring more value to our clients and even internally than we've ever done before. And so, just as an example, we just hosted the Digital Ministry Conference and we ran some surveys, and using AI I was able to create a personalized response for each one of those speakers saying, here is the results, here's what people were saying, and in a fraction of the time frame. And normally the kind of report that I gave out, it would have taken hours to do for all 15 speakers and never would have done it. And so it's allowing us to do more. It's like allowing us to do more, so it's not replacing humans, but it's allowing us to bring better service to the ministries that we are serving. Are you seeing similar in terms of the human
Absolutely.
response?
Absolutely. So there are things that machines do very, very well, right?
Hmm.
Rote things, rinse and repeat. Automate that. Take that off your plate and then do what it means to be human.
Hmm.
Think, ideate, relate, connect with people, and that creativity, a
Yeah.
Imago Dei, right? Made in the image of God. Like that's going to happen person to person. So I love thinking about the fact that our online missionaries, instead of the administration that they've been doing,
Mm,
they're now freed up to actually minister to people and
hmm.
disciple people. And that's the point, right? How do we help people move towards Jesus?
Yeah, yeah, that's the end goal. Exactly. So your AI task force, talk to us a little bit about that. Like, how did you determine who would be best on that task force? Was that a short term? Was it a long term? Is it still going on? Like, talk to us about the AI task force.
Sure. Actually, it's still going on. It'll be ongoing until we feel like it's not needed any further.
Mm-hmm.
And we meet monthly. It's a group of people from every department in the organization. Some people are heavy into AI. They're utilizing it in their jobs in a lot of different ways. And some people may be using it less frequent. So I really wanted to get the diversity of perspective. I think that's really healthy when you're thinking about programs or tools that you're going to roll out across the whole organization.
Mm-hmm.
And really, they're the subject matter experts in their areas.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're in marketing and communication, you know how you would use Midjourney and why you
Mm-hmm.
really need that tool to create great video. And so when we think about those use cases, they're really specific. So we're
Mm-hmm.
not like saying, "Oh, it would be nice if," we're thinking deeply, "Oh, this is something that we definitely can do." And what's great about that is then you can measure it
Mm-hmm.
and say, "Okay, did I really move the needle?" In some cases, you're going to find that using AI is a wash. It's
Mm-hmm.
the process or the thing that you're doing is no better than the way you had been doing it. And so we talk about that. Where does it really matter? Where does it really create that lift? And then, of course, there's always the theological side of this. The back to our values, our guardrails. This is that group that can wrestle with those kinds of conversations on a practical level. Again, because you can have checklists, and I do. We have an
Mm-hmm.
AI checklist. How to use AI, what tools to use when. But at the end of the day, this is where reasoning, human reasoning comes in.
Mm-hmm.
We need to talk through, is it practical to use AI?
Mm-hmm.
Is this the right time to use it? And you'd be surprised sometimes the answer is no.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. No, that's really helpful. I'm just curious. Could you just share like what is the structure of those monthly meetings? Is this an hour long? Is it longer? And
It's an
like, are
hour.
there? It's an hour.
It's an
Okay. Yeah.
hour, and
Yeah.
we have a Miro board that we share, and it has all of the use cases across the organization. So every department has use cases for how they would utilize AI, and then as a team, we've prioritized those use cases.
Mm,
Like, where do we think what something that would have high impact that maybe has low effort?
mm-hmm.
Let's do that first. Let's look for the things that really move the needle. And what's great
Mm-hmm.
about that is from a training perspective, it's not just somebody from the tech team saying, hey, here's this tool. It's people in the departments really understanding how the tool is useful to them.
Mm-hmm.
And they're the ones who are saying, this is what it's going to look like. This is how it's going to go, which I think is much more important when we think about alignment,
Mm-hmm.
alignment of technology to the organization and what really can help people fulfill their tasks, their roles in a meaningful way.
I love the diversity across the entire organization, getting all the departments together, and that you're tracking on a regular basis. Here are the use cases. This is how we've done. What about like the gains? What are some of the gains that you've seen as you've been tracking these use cases through?
Oh, one area that's really interesting is grant writing.
Hmm.
Now, note, anything we write, it first of all has human input. So we don't, put a small, 2 or 3 sentence prompt into a tool and let it spit out whatever. Not at all.
Mm-hmm.
We have a written document where we have really clear objectives that we've handwritten that we might feed into AI to say, how could this grant look? What are different ideas that we could this is back to the ideation thought partnership. Like there's different
Mm-hmm.
ways we could write this grant. There's different areas of focus that we could use. What are some different versions, that might be helpful as we think about working with foundations. And then what that's the ideation piece. And then we'll go back to the written document and add, subtract, and really make that piece sing. And I think this is where, with any writing, it's back to, human augmentation. At
Mm,
the end of the day, if you're writing it and using AI to help refine it, it's still going to keep your voice and be authentic. But if it's
mhm,
purely AI generated, unless you train it really well, it'll lose that. So it's hard to uh, keep your tone of voice consistent, for example, unless you have a lot of tokens and you have some really serious prompts. Consistency is still an issue.
mhm, mhm.
I'm
So
sure you
with
found that to be the case.
yeah, we have, and to help solve that, like we've standardized on Claude, and so we have Claude projects where we've
Mhm.
said this is the voice, and so
Right,
anytime we want to
right.
write something, it already knows our voice. Um,
Yeah, a
but
style guide, you can
we,
feed it
we
a
can feed
style
it.
guide.
Yep,
That's why you have
style
to have
guides.
documentation outside of your AI system. So
Hmm.
you can educate your AI system. And sometimes it needs a re-education. So you need reminded again. All
Yeah.
of that is there. You can load it in and you're set.
And so on the grant writing, has the benefit been the quality and the amount of time? Has it been saving on both of
Correct.
those things?
Correct.
Great.
Amount of
Good.
time, quality, and then just doing different ideas. Like take
Yeah.
this idea, give me 10 different versions of this idea, and then
Hmm.
they're like, oh wow, I didn't think about that impact that we could have with that particular grant, or oh, that proposal, it was focusing on A and it really needs to focus on
Mm.
B. Again, that ideation and permutation, right? It allows you to permeate lots of different ideas.
And at the end of the day, for grant writing, like the end goal is to get more grants. And have you been doing it long enough to be able to say, yes, we're landing
Yes,
X
yes,
percentage more grants than what we were last year this
yes.
time?
Because even if you can get a really good, if you could get a draft together that a team could look at, and in our case, a lot of our grants, more than one set of eyes in the organization, sees that grant, reviews that grant. If we can get a quick draft out there, that initial draft,
Mm,
how it goes. Even to just get feedback like, oh, hey, I really like where you're going there. Or, oh, I think that this isn't serving our needs. You can have that conversation more quickly in the
hmm.
process. And so it saves you time. So you can dig deeper into the grant and really make sure that strategically and on the impact side, it's everything you want it to be.
No, that's good. So if an organization is going down this path, what are some possible landmines that they should be aware of?
Well, I already, in a way, alluded to landmines. A landmine. I just said, hey, you could take your style guide and upload it into your AI. Anytime you use a free product, you're the product.
Hmm.
So I tell people, please don't use any of the free products because we don't have the same security controls, and I
Hmm.
have no idea what's happening to that data. And
Hmm.
so data is the biggest concern that I have is that people are putting sensitive data.
Hmm.
So depending on where you're doing business, we use a really strict definition of personally identifying information,
Hmm.
such as GDPR. So it's actually a broader view of personal information than in the US. And you have to think about am I putting data into these systems that could be utilized by bad actors? And so
Hmm.
you would think, okay, my first name, Yvonne, no problem. You add my email address, you are now in the way of personally identifying information.
Mm.
So we have a private AI server as a result. So if we have
Mhm.
any sensitive data or data that people are like, I'm not sure if I should put that into Chat GPT, um, we'll put it into the private server, and that's completely protected and walled off from the rest of the world. So it's not feeding back into any of the organizations, into any of the models.
Mhm.
And so we're an Amazon shop. We're running a Bedrock server, and we can include whatever models we'd like to use, and then we just put a simple front end on it. It looks a lot like Chat GPT, but we can could completely secure it, which is the name of the game. So data, copy and paste, the data, documents, same thing, right?
Hmm.
Uh, and then just AI fluency. So this is the understanding of how to use AI. There are ways that you can use it securely. There's ways you use it insecurely. I just told you one, right? Using free accounts,
Hmm.
but also ensuring that your security settings are appropriately set. So if you go into the security settings, it's worth spending a little time there to understand when you flip those switches, what do they do and how do they protect you and your organization? And in fact, I've done complete sessions on data compliance and security. I mean, this is a big topic,
Hmm.
but what I tell people is if you hesitate, if there is something that gives you pause, phone a friend, talk to somebody who knows, a subject matter expert. Hey,
Hmm.
I want to do this and this tool, and I have pause. I'm not sure if it's the best thing to do.
Hmm.
What do you think? Can you help me discern this? And
Hmm.
so we do actually have a Got Questions channel in our Slack instance, our workspace, so people can ask.
Not to be confused
Hey,
with the Got Questions ministry, right? This is a,
correct. Not to be confused
yep.
with the Got Questions Ministry. This is just a channel in Slack
Yeah.
where people can ask any question
Oh, that's
and they'll
great.
ask, can I use this? Should I do this? And
Yeah.
what's great about that is you're getting peer-to-peer learning as well.
That's good. So it sounds like you have both more public, paid public tools that people can use, but you also have a private, totally secure private option for those areas where you, when you have concerns about the PII, the personal information,
Or any
going in
sensitive
there. Yeah.
information. That could be
And,
financials. I mean,
yep.
anything that you don't want published. Like it's back to, Chad, the old adage, if you don't
You
want
don't want it on
everybody to
six
know,
o'clock
put it on your
news.
website.
Yep.
Oh,
Yeah.
if
Put
you
it on
don't
your
want it on your
website or 6 o'clock news. Yep.
yeah, 6 o'clock
Yep.
news. That's good. Right.
What no, no, that's yeah, that's really good. So I'm gonna make a shift here. Just so last year I had an opportunity to attend the Missional AI Conference, and I know you've been involved with that movement since its inception. It was a great conference. Um, Yvonne, I've been around a while, and I got to share my first day on the job working with the first ministry that I was working with. This was back in 1997. My first day on the job was actually getting on an airplane and flying to San Diego, California, and to attend a conference called GospelCom. And remember, this was the early days of the World Wide Web. We now call it the internet. And we were wrestling with the question, how can we use this new technology, the World Wide Web, to advance Christ's kingdom? So there's lots of energy, lots of innovation. And I attended those conferences they went on for about 10 years. And last year, attending the Missional AI, I got the same kind of vibe. It was like, how can we
Yes.
use AI for the right purposes of advancing the gospel? And personally, I came away inspired. And so like 5Q, we're going to have a bigger footprint at Missional AI this year, and we've partnered with you with the Digital Ministry Conference, and just really excited about that partnership. But you've been with Missional AI since its inception, and the global conference is coming up April 7th through 9th here in a few weeks. Can you tell us what you're most excited about for this year's conference?
Well, first of all, the thing I love the most about Missional AI is the community.
Hmm.
You have people from different backgrounds, different faith traditions, Catholic, Protestant, you name it, different Christian faith traditions. Um, you've got academics, you've got entrepreneurs, you've got engineers. Again, diversity.
Mhm.
Also, people from many countries, but we're all united through Christ.
Hmm.
And we want to see AI redeemed for his glory. And that is just like a thread that runs through all of those conversations, the conference itself. And so what I'm excited about is just to see people who are world-class subject matter experts. So
Mhm.
if you've known me for very long, you'll know that that when I hear the word expert, I'm like, okay, there's a lot of people right now that say they're AI experts.
Hmm.
These people truly are. They would never call themselves experts because they know how vast the the area of artificial intelligence
Hmm.
is, and it's been around for decades and decades. But they have such giftedness,
Hmm.
and they want to use that giftedness to help shape AI for the future for us all. And it just like social media, the internet, television, and radio has been shaped. I think, coming from the Moody Church, having worked there,
Hmm.
where the meeting to create the National Religious Broadcasters organization was held.
Hmm.
So I've been in some historic places, and I think this is a historic place,
Hmm.
Missional AI. The people, they're thinking, the way they're approaching AI, we're looking at it with fresh eyes. We're looking at it plainly. We know the risks
Hmm.
and we know the benefits, and you're going to hear about both.
Hmm.
You're
Hmm.
going to hear about both at that conference. And so
So
I really appreciate that. I feel like it's such a great place for people to come and be engaged in the conversation about what is AI in this present day and where are things going.
who would be some of the speakers that you're most excited about having that you're going to be having on stage this year?
Well, we're going to have a special guest, Dr. John Lennox. Actually,
Mm.
he's not going to be on stage, but it'll be like he's on stage. And
Hmm.
he's out of Oxford, and theologian, scientist, mathematician, um, brilliant thinker.
Mm.
When you think about wisdom personified in the Bible, I think of Dr. John Lennox, and how does he see AI? Theologically.
Hmm.
He has written on this extensively. What does the future look like? People are concerned with that. So I
Hmm.
think he's going to answer some of those questions and give us a lot of hope and insight from his perspective. Pat Gelsinger will be back again. I always love hearing from him as a pioneer in technology, and
Hmm.
to
And
have him
Pat
there.
was with Intel, correct?
Correct. He was at
CEO of
Intel. He was
Intel.
the CEO of Intel, right?
Hmm.
That's correct. So now he's working with Glue,
Hmm.
and they're doing a lot of really exciting work in this space. So he's a leader of leaders. So I'm always excited to hear, what wisdom he wants to impart to us. Like, these are the things you need to be thinking about right
Hmm.
now. These are the
Hmm.
problems you need to be solving right now. I love that. I love that. I feel like we need that. I feel like we really need that person to lead out, because there's so many things to be concerned about. But which one
Hmm.
should you care about? Are my
Hmm.
questions.
Hmm.
We're going to do a lot of demos, and so we're going to actually show some cutting edge technology, which I think gives people inspiration around what could be, and you can see it
Hmm.
with your own eyes. So those are just a couple speakers, the demos. We have some workshops. So really,
Hmm.
there's something for everyone, and there's a lot of really good networking time. Just even meeting, fellow practitioners. I appreciate meeting fellow CTOs. I am always learning from,
Hmm.
people such as yourself, Chad. This is a group sport. I mean, we need each other more now than ever to negotiate this age that we're in.
I love what you said there, that it's a group sport, because it definitely is. And I would just affirm everything you said about the community. It was I mean, there was obviously a lot of people that I knew there, but I met a lot of people, and it was who would you say would be the like who should consider attending Missional AI this year? Like, what would be the
Well, it's really for
profile of the
anyone. It's
best?
really for anyone.
Hmm.
If you're a businessman or woman, you don't have to be working in the ministry space to hear about how people are using AI in different ways.
Hmm.
If you're an entrepreneur, we have a lot of different startups, organizations that are building new tech that you would be interested in. Obviously, if you're a practitioner, engineer like myself, you're definitely going to hear some really great technical talks and learn about where the tool sets and the technology itself is going. I think that's really great.
Hmm.
And the pastor. I'd love to see
Hmm.
the pastors and the theologians, those professors, because they're
Hmm.
helping to shape thinking. And obviously, uh, we are dealing with something very personal here when it comes to AI. What does it mean to be human is certainly
Hmm.
challenged
Hmm.
by AI itself. And
Hmm.
what does it mean to interact even with a, a non-human,
Hmm.
embodied to disembodied? What does that look like from an
Hmm.
interaction perspective? What is it? Is that good? Is that bad? Thinking that through. So we'll definitely be presenting that as well. We'll have people looking at it from a theological lens. I would, if I were a pastor, I'd want to understand
Hmm.
what the experts were saying in terms of what the technology is not, versus some of the stories you see in the media can be sensationalized, and
Hmm.
like something happens that's negative, and it's like very very like fringe. Um, it would happen one in a billion times, but the minute it hits the news, it's big and it's going to happen every day. You just
Yeah.
lose sight of the proportion of the issue or the problem to the technology. So if you want to join the conversation at all about how Christians are shaping AI, this is
Hmm.
your room.
That's great. That's great. And where can people go to find out more? And where's it going to be held this year? Because that's another exciting part.
Yes. So it's just missional.ai is our website. Again, missional.ai. And we'll be in San Jose, California. So we'll be in
Right.
the epicenter. We will be in
In
Silicon
Silicon
Valley.
Valley. Yeah, that's great. That's great. And we'll have the web address missional.ai in our show notes as well. So if you missed it, you can just look down there. Um, No, that's fantastic, Yvonne. And I know I personally would encourage, if you're on the fence at all, if you haven't registered for the conference, I would encourage you to do what it takes to get there, because it is a worthwhile conference to attend. And I don't say that about many conferences, but this is one that is worthwhile attending. Um, so, Yvonne, as we wrap up, can you share with us what is one book or blog or resource that you've been thinking about recently that you can recommend to our audience?
Well, I'll have to say that my very favorite podcast as it relates to AI is Practical AI.
Hmm.
And Dr. Daniel Whitenack, who is actually the person who dreamed of missional AI. It was his dream that is realized, his vision, this conference. He is one of the hosts, and I listen to every episode.
Hmm.
They're so well done. They get experts from all over the world. Daniel is speaking at all of the major AI
Hmm.
conferences. He just really tapped into what is happening. And if you want to stay in the know, this is the podcast for you.
That's I have not subscribed to that one. I mean, I think you introduced me to Dan, so he's been a great resource that I've tapped many times over the past year or two. But I haven't tuned into his podcast, so thank you for that recommendation. And then if somebody wants to reach out to you directly, what's the best way for them to contact you, Yvonne?
LinkedIn, look for Yvonne Carlson on LinkedIn.
Great. And we'll link to that in our show notes. Well, Yvonne, thank you so much for joining us today. This has been great information and just your passion for technology and ministry and really this new world that we're living in with AI. So thank you for sharing of your expertise.
You're welcome. Thanks again for having me, Chad.
Thank you so much for listening to the Ministry at Scale podcast. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep impacting your world for Christ.